Stop. You've been lied to your whole life about what confidence actually looks like. It's not the loudest person. It's not the most charming person. It's not even the most successful person in the room. The most confident person? They're usually the one saying the least. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why. 7 habits. Completely silent. Completely invisible to most people. But once you see them, you will never unsee them. And more importantly, once you start doing them, people will feel something different about you before you even open your mouth. If this is the kind of content that actually challenges how you think, hit subscribe before we go any further. Because everything I put out is built for people who are done with surface-level advice. Stay with me. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. How many times have you walked into a room, a party, a meeting, a first date, and told yourself, just act confident, just pretend, just fake it? And how many times did that actually work? Not the surface version. Not I got through it. But genuinely, did you walk out feeling more confident than when you walked in? Probably not. And here's exactly why. Harvard Business School ran a study on what they called behavioral inauthenticity. What happens in your brain when you perform a version of yourself that doesn't match how you actually feel inside? The result? Anxiety went up, not down. Every single time you fake confidence, every time you perform a version of yourself you don't actually believe yet, you create a gap. A gap between who you're pretending to be and who you actually feel like. And here's the brutal part. Insecurity lives in that gap, and every performance makes it wider. This is why you can fake confidence for a full evening and come home feeling somehow worse than when you left. Most people think confidence is a costume, something you put on until it finally fits. It isn't. The people who are quietly, genuinely, unshakably confident, they don't perform. They practice. 7 specific behaviors, done consistently, until those behaviors aren't something they do, they're something they are. That's the difference between confidence that cracks the moment someone challenges you and confidence that doesn't even flinch. And the first habit? It starts somewhere so simple that most people completely overlook it. But get this one right, and I promise you, everything else and how people experience you changes. Let's go. Habit number 1. Master the quiet power of eye contact. Think about the last conversation where someone made you feel truly seen. Chances are, they were looking at you, not at their phone, not over your shoulder, not at the floor. That's not a coincidence. Research published in the journal Cognitive Neuroscience shows that sustained, mutual eye contact activates neural synchrony, meaning two people's brains literally begin to align. Eye contact doesn't just signal attention, it signals presence. And presence is the foundation of perceived confidence. Most people's eyes drift. They glance away mid-sentence, check their surroundings, scroll while someone talks. Every time they do that, they're sending a signal they don't even realize. I'm not fully here. Quietly confident people do 3 things differently. They look at you while you speak, not performing attention, actually giving it. They hold their gaze naturally through pauses instead of breaking away the moment silence arrives. And they blink normally, staying relaxed, because intensity without warmth reads as aggression, not confidence. Here's your practice. In your next conversation, stay with someone's eyes long enough to notice their eye color. That's it. That single shift will change how they experience you completely. And once you've mastered what your eyes are doing, the next habit is about what your mouth isn't saying. And this one is going to challenge how you've been showing up in every conversation you've ever had. Habit number 2, speak less, land more. There's a myth that confident people dominate conversations, that they always have something smart to say, always fill the silence, always leave people impressed with their words. The reality is almost the exact opposite. Neuroscience research on social bonding consistently shows that people don't remember what you said nearly as well as they remember how you made them feel. And the fastest way to make someone feel good? Make them feel heard. Most people listen to respond. They're already forming their next sentence while someone else is still finishing theirs. Quietly confident people listen to understand, and that distinction is everything. The habit has 3 parts. Let people finish their full thought before you speak, completely, without jumping in. Then pause. 2 full seconds before responding. It sounds small. It feels enormous. That pause signals that you actually processed what was said, not just waited for your turn. And instead of redirecting every conversation back to your own experiences, ask a deeper question. One that shows you were paying attention. When you stop competing for airtime, something counterintuitive happens. You command more of it. People start turning to you, asking your opinion, leaning in, because you've become the person in the room who actually listens. Master that, and you're ready for the habit that works before you even open your mouth. This next one operates at a level most people never even think about, and it changes how every room reads you the second you walk in. Habit number 3. Move like you're not in a hurry to prove anything. Your body is making an argument about you before you say a single word. Researchers at Ohio State University studying embodied cognition found that body posture doesn't just reflect your internal state, it actively creates it. How you move changes your cortisol levels, your testosterone, and critically, how safe and trustworthy others perceive you to be. You are broadcasting a signal at all times. The only question is what that signal says. Most people under social pressure move fast, fidgeting, rushing across the room, shrinking their posture, burying their hands in their pockets. All of it reads the same way. I'm uncomfortable being here. And discomfort is contagious. Quietly confident people move differently. They move slowly and deliberately, not dramatically, just without urgency. They keep their hands visible, open at their sides or naturally in front of them, because hidden hands subconsciously trigger distrust in others. And they roll their shoulders back, open their chest, and let themselves take up space without apologizing for it through their posture. This isn't about performing power. It's about not accidentally performing anxiety. Your body should say, I belong here, the moment you walk in, because when it does, people believe it. And the next habit takes that internal signal even further, targeting the single, most common way confident people accidentally undermine themselves without realizing it. Most people do this every single day and have no idea it's costing them everything. Habit number 4. Stop explaining yourself to people who didn't ask. You make a decision, and then, almost immediately, you start explaining it. I know it might seem like a weird choice, but, or sorry for saying this, but, or I don't usually do this, but I thought maybe. This is approval-seeking behavior, and most people are drowning in it without recognizing it as insecurity. Self-determination theory, one of the most widely researched frameworks in psychology, identifies autonomy as a core pillar of psychological well-being. Put simply, people who live by their own internal standards feel fundamentally more secure than people who are constantly calibrating their choices to someone else's reaction. The habit isn't about being arrogant. It's about being clean. Stop justifying personal choices to people who didn't request an explanation. When someone gives you a compliment, receive it. Just say thank you, fully, without immediately deflecting it back or minimizing it. And stop apologizing for existing in a conversation. Stop apologizing for speaking. Stop apologizing for taking up space that you were invited to take. Here's the contrast that matters. A person who constantly explains themselves sounds insecure even when their words are confident. A person who quietly owns their choices sounds secure even when they say nothing at all. This habit isn't about what you say less of. It's about the quiet authority that grows when you stop leaking it. But all of that, every habit so far, rests on something deeper. And this next one is the reason some people build confidence that lasts while others keep starting over. If you only take one thing from this entire video, make it this. The deepest habit, habit number 5. Build a foundation no one else can shake. Everything up to this point, the eye contact, the listening, the body language, the dropped need for approval, all of it is external behavior. And external behavior, without an internal foundation, is just a well-rehearsed performance. This is where most people get it wrong. Research on self-concept clarity from the University of Waterloo shows that people with a stable, clearly defined sense of self are significantly less destabilized by social pressure, criticism, or rejection. They don't collapse when someone disapproves. They don't spiral when things go wrong publicly, because their identity isn't held together by other people's opinions of them. Internally validated people do 3 things that look invisible from the outside. They celebrate wins privately, not because they're secretive, but because they don't need the performance of external validation to make the win feel real. They accept their flaws without turning self-awareness into self-destruction. They look at what needs work without using it as evidence that they are broken. And they measure their progress against their own previous standards, not against what someone else has achieved or posted online. Here's the insight that changes everything. Most people try to build confidence from the outside in. They want the results, the approval, the track record, and then they'll feel secure. But that version of confidence is fragile. The moment something external shifts, it cracks. Quietly confident people build from the inside out. And that foundation doesn't crack, because no one else is holding it up. But there's one habit most people never expect to see on a confidence list, and it might be the one that makes people remember you long after you've left the room. Habit number 6. The the habit that makes everyone remember you. Here's the one nobody puts on a confidence list, but it should be at the top. Lifting other people up. It sounds like a kindness habit. It isn't, or at least, it isn't only that. It's a confidence habit, and the psychology behind it is sharp. Studies on social comparison and status behavior consistently show that insecure people hoard the spotlight. They interrupt, redirect, minimize others' contributions, because deep down, they believe attention is finite and someone else's success threatens theirs. Secure people don't operate from that scarcity. They give credit freely. They highlight other people's expertise in meetings without feeling diminished by it. They share the win openly when a project succeeds, because they don't need to own it to feel good about being part of it. The three behaviors are specific. Praise people behind their back, not to their face where it could be strategic, but when they're not in the room, where it's just true. In group settings, point to someone else's knowledge when it's relevant. Actually, she knows this better than anyone. What's your take? And when something goes well, distribute the credit visibly and genuinely. The most memorable person in any room is rarely the one who talked the most. It's the one who made everyone else feel like the most. And when that person is tested, when tension rises and the room gets uncomfortable, they have one final habit that makes everything else visible. Don't skip this one. It's the habit that separates people who seem confident from people who actually are. Habit number 7. Stay calm when the room catches fire. This is the one that reveals everything. Anyone can appear confident when the room is comfortable. The real test is what happens when it isn't. When someone challenges you directly, when conflict surfaces unexpectedly, when silence gets heavy and uncomfortable and everyone is waiting for someone to react. Most people react. Quietly confident people respond. Research on stress physiology shows that slow, controlled diaphragmatic breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It literally reduces the stress hormone cortisol and lowers heart rate within seconds. People who breathe intentionally before responding in high-pressure moments aren't just calmer. They are perceived as significantly more authoritative and in control by everyone watching. The habit works in 3 layers. When conflict arises, breathe first. One slow breath before you open your mouth. When you do speak, lower your voice instead of raising it. Volume signals panic, steadiness signals power. And accept silence. Don't rush to fill it. Let it sit. Let it work for you. When everyone else in the room is reacting, the person who pauses becomes the person everyone turns to. Calm is not passivity. Calm is controlled power. And it is the most visible expression of everything the previous 6 habits have been quietly building inside you. Now let's bring all of it together, because the way this ends might be the most important part of everything you've watched today. You don't need a new personality. You need new patterns. None of what you heard today requires you to become someone else. That's worth sitting with for a second. Because most confidence advice, most self-improvement advice, carries an implicit message. Who you are right now isn't enough, so become someone different. That message is exhausting, and it doesn't work. Because you can't sustain a version of yourself you had to manufacture from scratch. What these 7 habits ask of you isn't transformation. It's intention. They ask you to become more deliberate with what you're already doing, to hold eye contact instead of drifting, to pause before speaking instead of rushing, to accept a compliment instead of deflecting it, to celebrate a win privately instead of performing it publicly. Yes, it will feel uncomfortable at first. That discomfort isn't a warning sign. It's a growth signal. It means you're rewiring patterns that have been running on autopilot for years. Patterns built on shrinking, performing, and seeking permission to feel okay about yourself. Confidence was never about volume, dominance, or an impressive highlight reel. It was always the quiet things. The eye contact held a beat longer. The 2-second pause that showed you were actually listening. The win you celebrated alone because it was real whether or not anyone saw it. Choose one habit from today. Not all 7, just one. Practice it deliberately in your next social interaction. Not perfectly, just intentionally. Because the most quietly confident version of you doesn't need to announce they've arrived. Everyone in the room will already know. If this video gave you something real, subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want the next level of this work, the next video is already waiting for you. Don't stop here.